We're going to be looking at determinants, and determinants are used in order to solve systems of equations as well as to look at solving systems of equations and our inverses. So a determinant can only be found if you have a square matrix. So that means it has to be a 2 by 2 or a 3 by 3 or a 4 by 4, something of that nature. The easiest one to kind of show you an example of is using a 2 by 2, just so you can kind of get the hang of this. I'm going to show you using diagonals. There is another method, but I think the diagonals is probably the easiest to understand. So for instance, if I have a matrix that's say 3, 4, -2, and 1. So here's how I find my determinant. My determinant is found by taking the multiplication of the diagonals and subtract them backwards. So when I'm looking at this, I want to go left to right. So I'm going to multiply that 3 times 1. And then I'm going to subtract the backwards way, so going right to left. So minus, in this case, -2 times 4. And this is going to be my determinant. So I've got 3 plus 8, which equals 11. Okay, so you're probably asking, okay, so a 2 by 2, it's a little bit easier, but what about a 3 by 3? How are those diagonals working? So let's go ahead and look at a bigger diagonal. Let's go with 1, 3, 4, 2, -5, 4, -3, -1, and 1. Okay, so these diagonals are a little bit larger, and there's more diagonals that you can have. So with this, my first diagonal is going to be that 1 times -5 times 1. Actually, I should do this all in one color. Now, I still have multiple diagonals in this because it's a 3 by 3. So now I've got -2, -1, and 4. This is still part of my diagonal going left to right. So this is why this one gets a little bit trickier. So we've got one diagonal left, and that is with our -3 and then 3 and 4. Oops. Sorry, goofing up on my colors. So that is my left to right diagonals. So now I need to go ahead and do the right to left diagonals. These are going to be denoted in blue. And notice, because it's a 3 by 3, I should have 3 numbers. When I was looking at the 2 by 2, I had 2 numbers that I was multiplying. It's like right here, I had 2 numbers I was multiplying because it's a 2 by 2 matrix. So when I'm looking at this, I've got 3 numbers I'm multiplying because it's a 3 by 3 matrix in order to get my full diagonal. So now we're going to go backwards. My first diagonal is going to be that -3, -5, and 4. And now I just keep going with my diagonals. 2, 3, and 1. And last but not least, that 1, -1, and 4. So technically, we've got this big equation that we're going to subtract. So I go ahead and combine all of the green and then all of the blue, and then I go ahead and subtract it. So all of my green gives me negative 49. My blue gives me 62. And I'm subtracting these two numbers. So when I do that, I have negative 49 minus 62 to give me negative 111. That right there is my determinant. Okay, so it is kind of a long process. However, this is a little bit easier than if I were to do this expansion. So I think that we're just going to stick with showing you one method. But I will show you eventually the shortcut on how you can actually find it using your calculator.